Hi everyone, welcome back to another video in the Web Security Academy series. In today's video, we'll be covering lab number 2 in the CSRF module titled CSRF where token validation depends on request method. Before we continue with the exercise, I'm happy to announce that today's video is sponsored by Intigriti. Intigriti is Europe's #1 ethical hacking and bug bounty platform. Although it is European-based, you do not have to be from Europe to hack on their platform. When they first approached me to sponsor my videos, I thought that they were the perfect sponsor because the majority of you who do watch my videos watch them because you do bug bounty. I've even gotten a ton of messages telling me that my videos help people find bugs in real-world applications, which honestly makes me really happy. So if you're interested in earning some money on the side by hacking applications legally, sign up to Intigriti using the link in the description, and make sure to tweet at me or comment below when you do find bugs in their platform, because again, it makes me really happy to hear these stories. Alright, enough about our sponsor, let's go back to the exercise. If you do not have an account on the Web Security Academy, you can get one by visiting the URL portswigger.net/websecurity and clicking on the sign up button. I already have an account and I am logged in, so to access the exercise, I'm going to click on Academy, go down, select the learning path, go down, select CSRF, cross-site request forgery, go down one more time, and select the second lab titled CSRF where token validation depends on the request method. Alright, let's get started. This lab's email change functionality is vulnerable to CSRF. So we've got the vulnerable parameter is the email change functionality. It attempts to block CSRF attacks but only applies defenses to certain types of requests. Okay, so they have some kind of CSRF defense. However, it's incomplete and doesn't apply to all types of requests. To solve the lab, use your exploit server to host an HTML page that uses a CSRF attack to change the viewer's email address. So the goal over here is to exploit the CSRF vulnerability to change the email address of the user. You can log into your own account using the following credentials, and we've got our credentials right over here. Alright, let's access the exercise. And while that opens up, we'll open up Burp Suite Professional. So if you don't have the professional version, don't worry. For the first part of the video, we'll solve it using Burp Suite Pro. And in the second part of the video, we'll script the exploit on our own. So you don't need a professional version to complete this exercise. Hit next and then start Burp. Okay, so Burp already started and we're waiting on Portswigger. Seems to have errored out, so let's open it up again. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is set our proxy setting in the browser to send requests to Burp. Now hit my account. It should be intercepted in the proxy, which it is. Now I'm going to set intercept to be off. Next, I'm going to log in with the credentials that we've been given to access the vulnerable functionality. So the password was Peter. Hit login. And here we go. So this is the vulnerable function. We're going to set intercept back to on and change the email address to test@test.ca. So hit update email. And here we go. Let's send this to repeater and set intercept to be off. So we'll be working from repeater from now on. Alright, so notice the analysis section over here. This is from the previous lab. We had said that in order for a CSRF attack to be possible, it has to satisfy 3 conditions. The first one is that you have to have a relevant action. So something that is important and if compromised can lead to dangerous consequences. And in this case, it's similar to the previous lab where we had an email change functionality. So the reason this is a relevant action is because if I can manage to change the email address of your account, then I can use it in order to reset the password of your account and fully compromise your account. So there's dangerous consequences to me being able to change your email address. So this is definitely satisfied. The second condition is cookie-based session handling. So in order for this to work, session handling has to be done using cookies. And in this case, it is. It uses a cookie that is called session. And this is the value of the cookie over here. So this is satisfied just like it was in the previous lab. And the last condition over here is no unpredictable request parameters. Because this is a pre-made request, the attacker needs to know all the parameters that are required for all the requests to be successful. And that's why you can't have unpredictable request parameters. Now, at first look over here, you could see there's an email, which the attacker already knows because the attacker only changes it to the email address that the attacker wants. The next parameter over here looks to be random. So there's a CSRF token, which at first glance makes it seem like that this is not vulnerable to CSRF. However, depending on how this was implemented, so the functionality behind the CSRF token generation, it might still be vulnerable. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a new section, testing CSRF tokens. And we'll build on this one with each lab. So the first thing that I usually do is change the request method from post to get. And the reason I do that is because usually the way applications are built is if you need to send data to the application, you use a post method. However, if you want to get data from the application, you use a get method. So usually you only set CSRF tokens on post methods because they're used to send data to the application. Now, if you place a CSRF token on a get method, it doesn't really matter because it usually just outputs data from the application, and with a CSRF attack, you can't force the application to send that data to you. So usually it doesn't matter that you have a CSRF token on a get method or not. However, if the application allows you to change a post request to a get request and send data to the application, so use a get method in order to send data to the application, then this might be vulnerable to CSRF. So to do that, we're going to right click and select change request method. You can do that whether you're using the professional version or the community version. So I'm going to click change request method, and it changed it to a get request. Now usually this fails because you don't want to use a get method in order to send information to the application. However, this application might be vulnerable and allows it. So let's hit send. And we get a 302, and if we follow the redirection over here, you could see that it did pass, and our email, let's make that a little bit bigger. Our email is right over here, and it got changed. So what I'm going to do right now is go back. Now notice in the get request, I still have an unpredictable parameter. So it's not like I can phish the user using this CSRF token because I have no knowledge of this CSRF token beforehand. So the test case that I'm going to test for is remove the CSRF token altogether, because usually applications only employ CSRF tokens for post methods and not get methods. So this might work. Let's hit send and see if we get a 302, and we do. Now, to make sure that it does actually change it, I'm just going to say test2 at test.ca, hit send again, and then follow the redirection and check if test2 is in the application, and it is. So this is definitely vulnerable to CSRF, and the reason it is, so the reason this is satisfied is because the request can be changed. So the request method can be changed to get, which does not require CSRF token. All right. So all three conditions satisfy, and so it's vulnerable to CSRF. Now notice over here, if we do it using the post method, and I lost my request, it's not letting me go back to the post one. So we're going to go to proxy, HTTP history, and send this one to repeater. So this is our original request. So if we look at it over here and hit send, you get a 302. However, if you remove the CSRF token from the post request, hit send, and it says missing parameter CSRF. So it's definitely checking the CSRF token for post requests, but it's not checking them for get requests. But since the application allows us to change the method to get request, which let's do right now. So change request method, hit send, and all of a sudden it works again. So this is vulnerable to CSRF. Now to exploit this, we're going to right click on engagement tools and generate CSRF POC. This is only available in the professional version of Burp Suite Pro. However, again, if you don't have the professional version, that's completely okay. We're going to script it on our own in the second part of the video. So the first thing you want to do is click on options, include auto submit script, and hit regenerate. What that does is it automatically submits the form when the page loads. All right, so you've got an HTML element, you've got a form element over here that submits this request. So the change email request, which is right over here. Notice that over here it submits one parameter, which is the email. So test@test.ca. We're going to change that to 3 to ensure that it's working properly. And then it has an input type of submit that submits the request. And again, because we said auto submit the request, it automatically submits this request for us. So we're going to copy the HTML. Go to the browser, select go to exploit server, put it in the body over here. So what the exploit server is doing is it's hosting our script. And then we're going to click view exploit, and it should automatically submit. And here we go. It says your email is test3@test.ca. So we've successfully managed to change the email address. However, we're not getting the congratulations, you've solved the exercise. And that's probably because we didn't go through the steps in the exploit server. So the first thing we need to do is probably store it. Go down, deliver the exploit to the victim, and then it should complete it. Here we go. So this emulates a victim user clicking on the link that you sent to that user. And then when the victim user clicks on the link, the email is changed in the background. Again, it might not seem so obvious with the exploit server that we're using right now. However, if you stick around to the second part of the video, you'll see us host it on our own server and then click on it as if we're the victim user, and the email gets changed in the background without the victim user knowing that it happened. All right, so we've successfully completed the exercise by using Burp Suite Professional. Now let's script it on our own. Let's close this because we no longer need it. And save this over here and click on our HTML document. All right, so we're assuming over here that we're using a Burp Suite community, so I'm not going to use any of the professional version features. So if you're working with Burp Suite community, all you have to do is intercept the request in proxy, send it to repeater. And again, in order to change the request to use the get method, all you do is right click and then change request method, and it changes it to a get request. All right, so the next thing to do is script our exploit. Again, because this is CSRF, we're going to be using an HTML document. So we'll start off with the HTML element and then the body element. And then we'll have a heading. So let's say heading 1. And we'll say hello world. This is what's going to be displayed to the user when the user clicks on the link. Next, we need a form element. So as a way to submit the request to the application. And we're going to say the action is equal to the URL over here. So what's in the host header? Let's copy that. Of course, we need HTTPS first. And let's make that nicer. Here we go. And then the path to the request. So it was my account / change email. Let's copy that. Paste it. And then we're going to specify that the method is a get method, not a post method. And the ID of this element, in case we need to reference it, is CSRF form. And let's close it off. Next, we need to add the parameters of the request. In this case, again, we had an email parameter and a CSRF parameter. The CSRF parameter is no longer mandatory when you're using a get method. And so we're only going to be adding the email parameter. And we'll do that using input type is equal to hidden because we don't want it displayed to the user. The name is equal to email. And we get that from this over here. And the value is equal to whatever we want to change it. So the attacker's email, which in this case will say test5@test.ca. And let's close this off. And that's it for the form. Next, we need to add a script element that auto-submits the form once the page loads. So we'll add our script tag. And we'll say document.getElement by ID. And we'll get the form, which we referenced as CSRF form. And then we'll hit submit. So what this does is when this page loads, it automatically submits the form for us. Now, when we were doing it with Burp Suite Professional, you saw the submit button and then you saw it automatically get submitted and then you were redirected to the Web Security Academy page where the email was changed. We don't want the user to know that we're changing his email, and so what we're going to do is use an invisible iframe where this request gets submitted. So the user is going to be looking at our application, which in this case just says hello world. And then in the background, the request is being submitted in the invisible iframe. So we're going to say the style is equal to display none. Let's name it to be equal to CSRF iframe. And we close it off. Now we're going to say for the form over here, the target is equal to the CSRF iframe. So the form will be submitted through that. All right, let's save this. This looks good. The next thing we need to do is host this on our web server. So to do that, I'm going to click on Terminal, New Terminal. And I'm going to set up a simple Python server. So I'm using Python 2. The syntax changes a little bit for Python 3. And what this does is everything in this directory over here, so lab02, which has this script over here, is hosted on my simple server on localhost port 5555. So to access that, we're going to click here, and the lab might have timed out, so let's just double check that. And it did. So we need to close this off. Go back and generate a new instance of the lab because we need to add it over here or else it won't work. While this loads, let's set up our phishing link. So it would be http 127.0.1. Again, port 5555, and then the name of the script, which is CSRF lab 02.html. All right. Now, in order for this attack to work, the user has to be logged in. So we need to re-log into the application. The password was Peter. Hit login. All right, so you could see this is the email address of the victim user. Now what we're going to do is we're going to send this link over here to the victim user and go like, hey, check out this link. It shows you a really cool page. And then when the user clicks on the link, so the user is clicking over here, all the user sees is hello world, and what it should have done in the background is it should have changed the email address of the user, and the user has no idea that it is done because we submitted it through an iframe. So let's see if the email address got changed, and it did not. So something went wrong, and this is getting intercepted in Burp, so we should be able to see it in the proxy tab. All right, so we could see over here, my account, change email. Email is test5@test.ca. That looks good. And it got a gateway timeout. Oh, and the reason is we never changed it when we opened up the new instance of the lab. So let's copy that, because it's still running with the previous instance, which timed out. Paste it. Save. And you'll see over here every time anyone clicks on the link, and that's how you'll know that the user clicked on that link, is it says that a GET request was submitted to the HTML document. All right, so the email address is still the original email address. Now again, we're going to fish the user and go like, hey, check out this really cool website. Hit send. You could see a GET request was performed. Now the user is only looking at this website and has no idea that the email got changed in the background. So let's reload this and see if the email changed, and here we go. So it changed the email to test5@test.ca, and the user has no idea that it happened because all the user is looking at is this page over here. All right, so we've successfully completed the exercise by first using Burp Suite Professional and then by scripting the exploit on our own. In the next lab, we'll look at another incorrect implementation of a CSRF defense. And again, we'll start building up our methodology for how to test CSRF tokens. If you like the video, hit the subscribe and share button so that it reaches a wider audience. Also, comment below what you learned and what you would like to see more of in the future. Thank you, and see you in the next video.